Hey everyone, Michael here. I'm a head coach at Legends Boxing, and today we're going to talk about hip flexors, how to keep your hip flexors safe when you're boxing, how to keep them mobile, and also how to get them stronger so that we can become better boxers. One of the most effective stretches for your hip flexor is also one of the easiest ones to do. So what you're going to do is you're going to get into like a low lunge position, so your knees on the floor. You're going to take a pretty big step forward with your front foot and really drive your hip flexor towards your front heel. Right, so I want to keep my chest up. If I start to drop my chest down towards my knee, it takes it out of the stretch. So I want to keep my chest up tall and push that hip flexor down towards that front heel. I can also raise this back hand, so if my left knee is on the floor, I raise up with my left hand, and I can also reach over the top with my left hand as well. I could even raise both hands and reach over also. But if you can just hang out here, I usually just keep my hands down, maybe my hands on this front knee, and I push my hip flexor down, and I hold it for about 30 seconds or so, and then I'll switch to the other side. So that's one of the greatest ones that you can do, and it's easy, so I highly recommend doing that after you exercise. All right, another great one is using a band here. So this is called banded distraction. I don't know why it's called that, but it is, so it's got a fun name, which makes it even more exciting. What you're gonna do is you're gonna get real comfortable with that band way up near the crotch area, okay? And you're gonna get some distance here away from the band. So what the band is doing is pulling your hip towards the beam, and that's opening up the hip socket a little bit. So that hip socket's getting pulled this way, and I can stretch into it here. I can also face away from the attachment of the band, and that's gonna pull my hip joint back, right? And that just kind of mobilizes my hip flexor in a different way, and is pulling tension in the opposite direction. So I highly recommend doing a lot of things with bands. Like I said, it's almost like you're getting stretched out by a human being, but you don't need a friend. You could be a lone wolf and still stretch out. So the last one, this one's a little tougher to find a spot. So you can see that we got the bench up here on these little steppers. One of the best places you can do this is actually laying in bed. I do this every night. So what you can do is you're gonna lay down. This isn't the most ideal position to show you, but you need something high enough where you can lay down flat and let your foot come towards the floor, but not touch the floor. So it's actively stretching that hip flexor out as I lay down. So I can just lay here. This is a little bit low, but let that leg relax down, so let gravity do the work, and that lengthens out the hip flexor as you're just laying, relaxing. So there's 3 stretches that you can do that are great for your hip flexors. I know those can get tight, especially if you have a desk job. They're constantly tight. So I'd highly recommend getting up off of your chair every half hour, 45 minutes when you're working, and do maybe one of those hip flexor stretches throughout your day. That's going to help you a lot when you're boxing, because you're going to feel much more mobilized. So one thing that you want to make sure of with your hip flexors, often people will think that their hip flexors are too strong, but they're actually too weak. All right, they might be tight, but they also might be too weak. So here's a couple tests that you can do on yourself to see whether or not your hip flexors are weak or strong. So the first one here, so you want to find something you put your foot on at about 90 degrees. This is actually a little bit higher than 90 degrees, so this is going to be a little bit harder for me than if it was a little bit lower, right? But I should, if my hip flexor is strong enough, I should easily be able to lift that foot up off without any assistance, all right? If that's really tough for you, your hip flexors are probably pretty weak, okay? So you want to, this is one of those things where the test actually becomes the exercise. So, find something tall like a chair, or it doesn't have to be tall really, just a chair or a stool, and do a bunch of reps here until you're really feeling that burn in the hip flexor. And you're also working on your balance as well, which is nice. And do those, every day until they start to get easier to do. You should be able to do 20 in a row without too much problem. Another great one to do to kind of test your hip flexor strength is to pull your knee into your chest, like so, and then see if you can let go of the knee and if it stays there. If you let go and if it immediately drops to 90 degrees or lower, probably means your hip flexor is not very strong. So that's another one where you can kind of work on it, pull it in. It's a good stretch here, and then just see if you can hold it. And if you can't, then you can take it to one of these exercises here, or we're going to show some other ones that are going to help you out. Okay, here's a great exercise you can do, again with the bands, to really help you get your hip flexors a little bit stronger, or a lot stronger. So what you're going to do here is you're going to take that band. I like to drop it. I put my foot right over the band, and then I cross it over. That way I'm held in, heel to ankle. I'm going to lay back here on my back. I'm going to pull that knee into my chest. So there's a lot of hip flexors right here. Pulling it in, bringing it out. Pulling it in, bringing it out. Pulling it in, bringing it out. Try to keep a tension all the way through the band. So you don't want to be so close where you lose the tension of the band halfway through. Make sure it's strong all the way through, but you should not have so much tension where you can't bring that knee way in, at least to 90 degrees, and then bring it back out. Repeat maybe 15 reps, 3 times on each side. Okay, now this is another great hip flexor exercise. This one's challenging. All you need is a wall and just sit on your butt. So you want to get your hips as close to the wall as you can. You're going to bring your non-working leg, so that heel towards your butt. First one is just lifting up and down. Okay, so I want to keep my toes pointed towards the ceiling, and I'm lifting up and down. Maybe 20 reps. This gets tough really quick. The next one is you're going to arc it out. So you're going to kind of make like a rainbow with your heel. So touch, lift, touch, back and forth, okay? And then the last one is you're actually gonna bring your knee into your chest. And you're just going to pull that knee in and out. Make sure your toes are pointed up towards the ceiling. Watch out for those toes pulling out to the side. So with these exercises, I'd recommend 15 to 20 reps and go through each one. Go up and down, maybe 1 set there, and then 1 set, arc it out, and then 1 set, pulling that knee into your chest. Make sure you're alternating legs, because those hip flexors are going to feel that. All right, another great one, again with the bands. So what you're going to do is you're going to stand on a very light band. You don't want too much band here. And you're going to get that other side of the band right over your foot. So you're going to balance on one leg, or you could hold on to something. Use your grandma or whatever, whoever's close to you. And you're going to pull that knee towards your chest, all right? So I'm pulling it up, bringing it down. Pulling it up, bringing it down. It's not about the tension, it's about getting height out of that hip flexor. Because mostly our quads do the work until it gets to about 90 degrees, and then our hip flexor complex takes over and does most of the work from there. So up and down, work until you're really feeling that burn, maybe 15 to 20 reps, do it each side, a few sets would be great. And there are a number of great exercises for your hip flexors and stretches. So you have no excuse to have tight hip flexors or weak hip flexors. Get to work, and you're going to be a better boxer for it. See you next time.